What's up? What's up? What's up? Let's go to this one. Yeah, because that one's like an offer. Anyway, yeah, we're just trying to. We gotta welcome to Frontline Faith with Pastor Alex Bryant. So we're like trying to figure this out. We're gonna start the day over here in our studio. Our studio. What's up, Chris?
What's up?
We got a show going on.
We're trying at least.
Yeah. So we got a couple guests today. Let me give you the rundown of what's going to happen today on Frontline Faith with Alex Bryant. It's Thursday, thunderous Thursday, and we got a good show. We got a couple of guests that are going to be in with us. David Stoecker is going to be joining us. He is a hope dealer, and so, I'm excited about him. We're going to have an interview with him. He works at the Springfield Recovery Community Center, and he's going to be joining us in studio. We'll put him right over here, right next to me on Frontline Faith with Alex Bryant. We're going to talk a little bit about, he's going to be right there in those chairs when he gets here, in one of those chairs. And so we'll have him in. We'll also have Bishop Garland Hunt from the Douglas Leadership Institute. He will be joining us. And so that's going to be a great deal there with him. And then we're going to have, we'll talk about DOGE as usual. We got the top 3 stories of the hour, reciprocal tariffs, people losing their mind with that. And so we'll have a discussion on that. And then also, we're going to talk about the Social Security. That's going to be something we discuss a little bit. DOGE has been attacking that, and people do not like it. So it's going to be a good show. We got a great one for you. But here's the deal. We're going to start it off, and I want to play this video. It's with David Stoecker. He is the hope dealer. He will be joining us today. He's a guy who's local here. They're doing a lot of stuff with addiction. And I want you to hear a little bit about his story. This is about a 5-6 minute video just about what he's going to be doing, and then he will be joining us a little bit later. But I want to kind of give you a little taste of what to expect today, because there's just a lot of people that don't have hope. There's a lot of people that are living without it, struggling, and we need people like David Stoecker, who's doing what he's doing, hope dealers. So check this out. This is a little bit about him, and then he'll be with us a little bit later on in the show. So check it out.
Hi, my name's David. I'm a person in long-term recovery. My first memory is being molested by a babysitter. I grew up in a house with a lot of drinking, and my mom ended up leaving my dad and dropped us off at her dad's when I was in 5th grade. My grandpa was the most evil person I've ever met. The summer before 7th grade, my dad got custody of me, and I moved to a little German town right outside of East St. Louis called Highland, and my dad worked overnights. The second or third time I hit that joint, I stopped thinking about all the trauma. The next night I met up with the same group of kids. They introduced me to alcohol, and I found the same thing with alcohol. The more I drank, the less I thought about all the things that had been done to me, and I really liked the way that felt. Over time, I discovered that if I stayed intoxicated, not only did I not think about my past, but nothing anybody did today could hurt me. So that turned into 24 years of substance use. I would be in and out of jail, prison, drop out of high school, in and out of residential treatment, outpatient treatment. I've died 8 times and been brought back to life. And in all that time, what I learned is that I never had a drug problem, because drugs weren't actually my problem. My problem was trauma that was never addressed, and I never learned coping skills because the people that were supposed to protect me, nurture me, and comfort me were the same people who were abusing me and allowing me to be victimized. So as long as I didn't address the trauma, I was always going to come back to the drugs, because something was always going to activate that trauma in my life. And I started making small steps, but I was still kind of mired in addiction. I always say I believe that there are multiple pathways to recovery, but the only pathway that I found that worked for me was Christ. In my recovery, I've also found that I'm a human doer, not a human being. I have to be doing something, and I found that going out and doing things that impact my community in a positive way whether it's painting playgrounds, on a stream team picking up trash, those types of things really were kind of the secret sauce. But I started looking and realized that there really wasn't enough positive, fun, family, pro-social things to do. So I started Better Life in Recovery in 2012. Last year, we did over 800 events. We had over 16,000 people that engaged in our events. And it's continuing to grow. Even in COVID, we have continued to be able to give support to people. This year, we've given out 3,600 Narcan kits. We've had 12 people report back to us that they were revived from an overdose with Narcan that they got from here and were trained how to use here. So it's amazing the things that we're able to do in recovery, how we're able to give back and make our community a better place. So I read a lot of books and people's memoirs that were in recovery, and there seemed to be so much glorification of their drug use. And everybody wants to talk about how big and bad they were and these amazing parties that they had and everything else. And I really wanted to write a book that talked more about what led to my substance use, all those horrific things that happened to me, so that people could see that for a lot of people, I mean, it's not a choice. It's I was going to do drugs or I was going to take my own life, because I could not stand to think about all of the things that had been done to me. Until I worked through the trauma, the drugs are what helped me actually get out of bed in the morning. That's what helped me feel like I had any worth at all, because at least I was good at something. At least I was good at being bad. And I wanted people to kind of follow that story and see that for a lot of people, it's not a choice. It's something that they have to do just to live. So there's not a whole lot about my addiction in there. It's more the horrific things that led up to it. And then the second half of the book, I really wanted to be able to share the things that helped me build my recovery and had helped me grow spiritually. And that's basically the second half of the book is more like a self-help book, almost like these are the things that have helped me. Those are also the things that I've seen help other people, thousands of people that I've worked with in recovery build their best life. I mean, I have a beautiful wife. I have 2 amazing kids. I have a nonprofit. I've taken a GED that I got in prison and turned it into an associate's degree, 2 bachelor's and a master's. I hope that the book, gives people hope that recovery is not only possible, it's stinking amazing. I also want people to know that even though horrific things happen, that we can come out on the other side and be successful. So if you or a loved one has a substance use disorder and is in the depths of addiction, that's something that you can overcome and come out of. And for some people, it may take treatment. For some people, it may take 12-step meetings. For some people, it may take Christ. For some people, it may take medication. I mean, but recovery is recovery, and as long as they find their recovery, man, I'm gonna be their biggest cheerleader. I believe that anybody who has gone through something, overcomes it, and then shares their story with other people so that they have hope that maybe they can overcome their problems too, as a hope dealer. So what I want with a hope dealer is somebody that's not afraid to be transparent about what they've been through, what they're going through, and then to use their victories and their deficits to give other people hope. Pour yourself into your community and work to make your community a better place so that you feel like you have ownership or value in that community. Those are the 2 things that are going to cement somebody's recovery and really help build it.
All right, that's the hope dealer, David Stoecker. I'm looking forward to interviewing him. He's going to be here, and it's going to be a good time. We're going to be talking about recovery, what they're doing at the Springfield Recovery Community Center here in Springfield. A lot of people are dealing with substance abuse and addiction. David's story connects with them, and they're doing a lot of good work. And so I can't wait to have him here joining us on Frontline Faith. And so that's going to be there. Hey, I want to give you some thoughts before he is in the next, 10 or 15 minutes or so. DOGE, baby. What's the big deal? I got some thoughts.
What's the big deal? Opening news story.
Man, there is like mass hysteria going on with DOGE. I don't know if you saw the interviews over the last couple of days with Elon Musk and President Trump. They were on Sean Hannity, and they're just talking about what they're doing. This government When Trump came up with the idea for the Department of Government Efficiency, they were out to combat waste, fraud, and abuse, which I don't know why anyone doesn't think that's a good idea. But people are losing their ever-loving minds over what Elon's doing. They're trying to discredit this guy in every single way. It reminds me of how they loved Trump when he was a Democrat. When he was a New York socialite, everybody thought he was awesome. Everyone, rappers made songs about him. The media loved him. The ladies on The View loved him. He was invited to all the parties until he decided to run for president as a Republican. And then you got to shun him. You got to ostracize him. Then you got to tear him down, make him look bad, discredit him, not like him, and it's death by 1,000 cuts. Well, the same is true with Elon Musk. Up until about 3 or 4 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, everybody loved the guy. He was this bastion of the Green New Deal, Tesla cars, going to Mars. He believes in climate change. He is pretty much, with all of his social policies, he is a liberal through and through. Guy has transgender kids. He's all about people should be able to live and die when they want to. He's as liberal as they come. Save the planet, battery power, yada, yada, yada. Well, he was, some people say this, they didn't get into politics. Politics came to them. He hated what was going on with free speech, with free thinking. So he decided to do something about it. He's like, wait a minute, I'm going to buy Twitter and I'm going to give it back to the people, make it a bastion of free speech. And when you start down that road, down that process, and you start looking at things and going, hey, how come they're trying to stifle free speech after COVID and the misinformation and how they're trying to label it? He started to see the plan they had. And so he wanted to do something about it. And that just started his pill to becoming open-minded. And now he's came out and he endorsed President Trump. And now, of course, the media, those on the left, they can't stand him. They gotta hate him. They gotta tear him down. But he's still the same dude. But he's obviously conservative fiscally when it comes to that with money. And his whole thing is, if you saw this interview, he's like, America has to win. He's like, I got so many businesses, Tesla, Neuralink, Starlink, X, SpaceX, all these different things. He's like, if we don't win, then my companies fail. And so obviously he wants a strong America. So him and Trump, they've become friends. They've been talking, and Elon's like, hey, I got some engineers. I got these young engineers. Some of them are 19, 20 years old. We can go in and evaluate everything that's happening in the government. We can make sure it runs more efficiency. It's all about science and data. So that's what he's doing. And now that they're doing it, oh man, the people on the left do not like it, the politicians, and here's why. Because he's looking for their fraud, their waste and their abuse. The question that makes me all in for this is this, and I've said this before, how come and how can these politicians who make about $175,000 a year, they've been in office, AOC, for 6 or 7 years, how can you now be worth $70 million? On the salary that you were making, $200,000 a year. After 5 years, how are you worth $70 million? Bernie Sanders, all you've known is public office. Your salary's been $200,000, $225,000 a year for 30 or 40 years. How are you worth 100 and something million? Joe Biden, all you've known is public office. How are you worth 150 million? Nancy Pelosi, you sell stock like nobody's business because you've been in office for 182 years and your husband's now getting all your secrets and now he's trading stocks on that. You guys are selling us out with all these other countries. I want to know how and why. And I love that someone is going in to evaluate this. And that's what Elon Musk is doing with DOGE. That's the premise. Why are these politicians getting rich and yet our lives are not getting better? And here's the reality of it. You've had even Democrat politicians, Bill Clinton, Obama, they were all down with DOGE before. Clinton and Gore, man, when they were trying to cut the government, and remember, I told you before, in 1993, Bill Clinton, he cut 377,000 employees from the government. Nobody had a problem with it then, but now all of a sudden when Trump wants to do it, we got a problem with it. They're fighting him in court. They're saying that the guy that he hired to do it, because Elon Musk is a hired government employee who's taking zero salary. I love that part of it. They're looking at it and they're evaluating these things. This team of young scientists and engineers on the DOGE team, some of them are getting paid. But like Elon said, these are engineers who can be making millions of dollars, but they're doing it on a government salary. But I want to ask you a question. When Obama, when Gore, when Clinton did it, nobody had a problem. Do you guys remember this? Play this.
This report tells us how to cut waste, cut red tape, streamline the bureaucracy, change procurement rules, change the personnel rules, and create a government that works better and costs less.
I've read it, and where it says the president should, the president will.
Among the 800 recommendations, eliminating 12% of the federal workforce, merging some government agencies like the FBI, the DEA, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, closing hundreds of government offices outside Washington.
From the day I took office, one of the commitments that I made to the American people was that we would do a better job here in Washington in rooting out wasteful spending. We thought that it was entirely appropriate for our governments and our agencies to try to root out waste, large and small, in a systematic way. It means cutting some programs that I think are worthy, but we may not be able to afford right now. A lot of the action is in Congress and legislative, but in the meantime, we don't need to wait for Congress in order to do something about wasteful spending that's out there. We haven't seen as much action out of Congress as we'd like, and that's why we launched on our own initiative the campaign Cut Waste. And we're going to keep on finding every possible way that we can do that, even if Congress is not acting. There you go.
That's from our very own congressman. I got that, Eric Burlison. He posted that video. The bottom line is the American people support what's happening with Trump, Elon Musk, with DOGE. We're all for it. And you can see this if you're on X and you're looking all around, you see that the people like it. And the American people, we like it because of ideas like this. Check out what the newest thing that Trump and Elon Musk is proposing.
There's even under consideration a new concept where we give 20% of the DOGE savings to American citizens and 20% goes to paying down debt, because the numbers are incredible, Elon. So many billions of dollars, billions, hundreds of billions, and we're thinking about giving 20% back to the American citizens and 20% down to pay back debt and pay down debt.
So yeah, man, I mean, the American people like that. Trump and Elon, they're now proposing with the money that we're saving, and they're saying they want to cut like $2 trillion eventually. But like right now, they're looking at saying, hey, they think, with this whole Social Security thing, there's one of the guys that was in the government who said, we think there's about $1 trillion a year worth of fraud. Other countries have been frauding our system. These 20 million people who are over the age of 100, who are supposedly receiving Social Security checks. Some people say that, they're going, how can individuals be frauding us, 20 million of them? Maybe it's not, but it could be other governments, foreign governments that are taking advantage and getting a lot of money. $1 trillion, that's a lot of money. Some people say, well, this can't be true at all. It's a glitch in the system. Well, I at least want it to be investigated. I'm glad that somebody is at least investigating it and saying, okay, yeah, we've done the research. We found that, we're not losing money. I would love for that to be the case. But if we are losing money, I want it to stop. $1 trillion. They're talking about they could save us. And then the newest idea is they will return that $1 trillion to the people in the form of dividends, 20% of it. So if you look at 20% savings of $1 trillion, I mean, that's like $200 billion. So if they save $1 trillion, $200 billion, if they give that back, with the 335 million Americans, that means each of us can get about $1,100. I'm all down for that. I see Frizz over here. He's like cheering that. But I just love the ideas. I love the ideas, and I'm all about what DOGE is doing. And so President Trump, they're doing some good stuff. Now, people all over X, they are responding. It's trending left and right. I saw this video of this lady. She's responding to Jasmine Crockett. She is the congressman. I shared about her on Tuesday. She is the female congressman, the black female congressman from Texas, who I believe is just being used wrongfully. She is going out there trying to tell us to be quiet, don't worry about it, we can't trust Elon, when a lot of people, I don't care if you're black, white, brown, male or female, we're going, hold on a second. let's let this guy investigate this. Let's look and see what's going on. But Jasmine Crockett's like, no, they're doing it wrong. We're supposed to do this behind closed doors. We don't want you, the people, to know what's going on. And so there's a lady that I like to follow on X. She had this to say in response to Jasmine Crockett. Check.
I do not care that Elon Musk is unconventional in his methods. So according to Jasmine Crockett, who said that she is also on the House Budgeting Committee, Elon Musk is doing things wrong, and that's why Democrats are so upset. She said that what he's supposed to do when he discovers these things is convene a committee and have a committee meeting so that they can discuss things quietly. He is not supposed to bring things to the attention of the American people, and he has been posting things on X. He's been vocal about it on social media every time he finds something. But I do not care if his methods are unconventional. I think that the reason they want him to discover these things and keep it behind closed doors so that they can continue with this money laundering that they have been doing over the last few years. And I'm curious too about Jasmine Crockett because she loves to talk about the oppression of the black person in this country and how white people, according to her, will never understand how it feels to be a black person in America. This is what Jasmine Crockett loves to talk about. But what about the oppression of the American taxpayer? You have taxes taken out of your paycheck before you even get it. And our government, our elected officials are sending our tax dollars all over the world, to paying for the most ridiculous things on our dime. $59 million spent on housing undocumented migrants in the state of New York in luxury hotels. $59 million. But meanwhile, we have American citizens who are sleeping in tents and who lost everything they have. But our government managed to come up with $59 million to house undocumented immigrants in luxury hotels in the state of New York. If Jasmine Crockett and all these other Democrats were really for the people, this is what they would be talking about. They would be advocating for the people instead of advocating against an appointed elected official who is doing his job.
I mean, the lady's not wrong, and she's talking a lot. I mean, it's trending all over X, social media. People are talking about it, and I think we should. I think that's healthy. And, my take is this. Someone asked me, I get a lot of people sending me messages, do you trust everything Elon's doing? No, I mean, I don't trust everything anyone's doing. But I'm glad someone is exposing it, looking into it. And I'll say this right now, the enemy of my enemy is also my friend. And if he's trying to save us money because we pay way too much in taxes, I'm all for it. People are like, well, why does he need access to our social security numbers? He could steal our stuff. The dude's worth $415 billion. He doesn't need your $172 that you got in your checking account. Let me assure you of that. I mean, dude, this guy, he's not motivated by money. He lives in a house that's like 1,200 square foot. It's like a Tesla home that he put outside of his Tesla headquarters. He sold all his other houses. His goal is just to go to Mars. This guy's differently motivated. He's built different, as the kids would say, and he's willing to sacrifice his time, his effort, his energy to make sure that we weed out waste, fraud, and abuse, and I'm all for it. And the American people, they are too. Trump's approval rating is like 49%. On this issue alone, it's like 72% because we want government shrank. We want to know that all the waste, fraud, and abuse that is being taken care of, that is getting out of there. So I'm all for it. Elon's not playing the political game, and he's exposing exactly what's going on with these politicians, how they've been taking advantage of we, the people, and we ain't down with it no mo. I know ain't isn't the word you're supposed to use, but that's the word I chose. So anyway, hey, that's all I got to say about DOGE for now. I'm excited. He's joining us already on the set, Mr. David Stoecker. He is a hope dealer. We showed you his video at the beginning of the show. He's with the Springfield Recovery Community Center, and we're going to talk with him next. But let's get to, we got a sponsor, a word from our sponsor, Mr. Will Worsham Law Firm. So check out this sponsor, and then we'll be back with the interview of David Stoecker.
I'm Will Worsham. After 20 years in criminal law, I shifted gears because I saw too many families suffer when the estate plan they thought was solid wasn't. Parents thought they had it all taken care of, only for their kids to find out too late that they didn't. That's why I created Worsham Workshops, entertaining, informative sessions where families learn to avoid the most common pitfalls in estate planning. You don't have to leave your family's legacy to chance. Join a Worsham Workshop and see why so many families trust us with their legacy. Visit worshamworkshops.com or call us today.
Interesting interviews.
Welcome back to Frontline Faith with Alex Bryant. Joining me in the studio all the way out here in Rogersville, he weathered the storm and the bad weather, Mr. David Stoecker. How are you, my friend?
Doing fine. How are you doing?
Doing very well. Thanks for joining us out here. Man, I've known you now for a little while. I've known your wife for a long time. We go way back to the days of James River Church. We used to sing in the choir together, and she's behind the scenes over here. And so we, Julie, she's in our audience. Is that, is that the guest audience? Is she going to cheer and applaud the stuff you say, or what's happening? So, but anyway, I've known Julie and I've known Dave, and I'm just been impressed with what you're doing. I think people know a little bit about our history. I've shared before. I used to be the program director of a Teen Challenge program when I was in St. Louis, when I ran the Joyce Meyer Ministry. My wife also was the program director of a Teen Challenge program. And I've never been into substance abuse, never touched a drug, don't do that stuff. But a lot of my family members have. And I tell people I don't have a dad. My real dad just so strung up on drugs all of his life. And so I've seen how families can be torn apart, lives can be torn apart. So I learned from what other people did, and I'm like, no, that's not the way I want to go. And so you are helping this community, the people that have gotten caught up into drugs and addiction, and you're doing great work. I want to just talk to you a little bit about what you're doing. We showed your video a little bit earlier. We kind of talked about your story. There's a 6-minute video where you kind of told a little bit about your story, and just let people in a little bit about what you're doing. But before we get started, tell us a little bit about what you're doing over there in the work at the Springfield Recovery Community Center.
I like to say that our focus is on teaching people how to kind of live their recovery in community with their family. I think a lot of times when people get into recovery pretty early, I don't like relapse prevention, they're like, you need to get rid of these people, you need to stop going to these places, you need to stop doing these things. So we look more at recovery enhancement. Who are the people you should be hanging out with? Who are, where are the places you can go? What are healthy things you can be doing? And start adding things to people's lives so that people can learn how to live their best life and be part of the community again.
That's awesome. Well, what I want to do, and we have a video, another video, and it talks about what you guys are doing there at the Springfield Recovery Center. Hope starts here. We're able to play that video for what they're doing over here. And man, we got a big audience over here now. So go ahead and play that video right there. The Hope starts here.
For a little while, I started to recognize that there wasn't really a lot of regular, fun, pro-social things to do. By the time we got to 2016, we were having so many events that we started looking for a brick and mortar place to have them. In 2016, I partnered with 2 other people to open the Springfield Recovery Community Center. It is a community center for people to come in and work with recovery coaches, get connected to resources, and engage in fun pro-social activities. What I love is that we believe in multiple pathways to recovery, so we have meetings for people in that continuum.
People-sized people,
a 12-step meeting.
Well, actually, we have to move these every time we do it because normally we're over there on that set. So like when
a faith-based meeting. We do some life skills classes. We have good dads classes. We have recovery enhancement classes. On top of all the fun things we do. We have movie nights and game nights and sober karaoke. We do 8 to 10 float trips a year, sporting events, concerts. We have multiple certified peer specialists on staff at the Springfield Recovery Community Center. We also do recovery checkup phone calls. We provide naloxone, which a lot of people know as Narcan, for free, and that's the medication that reverses an overdose. We provide education, and we can teach you how to save a life. We are neither housing nor are we treatment, but our team can connect you to those resources. Because our hope is that people will find a purpose and a place here. Not only is recovery possible, it's amazing. because we truly believe that at the Springfield Recovery Community Center, hope starts here.
So good work they're doing at the Springfield Recovery Community Center. Dave, okay, so we know your story. You got caught in that trap of substance abuse and kind of hit rock bottom. Is that what motivates you to want to help other people?
Yes and no. One thing I would say is I always say rock bottom's dead. Like, I think we have moments of clarity because some people find their recovery up here, some find it down here. And I think as long as we're alive, we can always go lower if we continue making unhealthy choices, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So when I hear rock bottom sometimes, I think some people are like, well, I haven't hit my bottom yet, so I need to keep going.
Yeah.
But the truth is, I mean, you don't have to be way down here to make positive life changes and live your best life.
I like that because I can think, in the times where I've helped people, where we've tried to help people, I can remember one girl, and I've shared her story on our ministry before. She had that exact mindset mentality. Well, I know, she'd be in jail and she'd be at where you think would be, some people would say rock bottom, but then someone would come in and say, there's black tar heroin. And she's like, well, I still got a little bit to go. I guess I could try that before, I'm not dead yet. So I do like your philosophy on that. Recovery starts anywhere. Is that what you said?
Pretty much. I mean, I don't know. I've died more times than I can count on one hand. I've been in and out of jails and prisons my entire life. When I finally found my recovery, I was going to grad school.
Wow.
I had started going to college off a GED I got while I was in prison, and I'd got my associate's degree, a double bachelor's, and was in the first year of my master's program when I finally stepped into abstinence-based recovery.
Okay, so you said abstinence-based. I'm going to put a pin on that because I want to come back to that. But why this lifestyle? I mean, if you had the double bachelor, you were starting on a master's degree, you could be making a lot of money. And I know, being in the recovery ministry, I'm going to assume you're not making a lot of money.
No, I like to say most of my friends with masters have MBAs, so they're making a little bit more money than I am. But at the end of the day, I don't know, from 2015 to 2018, I went to over 100 funerals. I think 3 of them were natural causes. There was a couple homicides, a couple suicides, but almost every single one of them was somebody that died from an overdose. I'm tired of going to funerals and tired of explaining to people I went to school with over their kids' caskets how the system failed.
Okay, I just want to, my mind, you said that fast, I want that to slow down for people. You said for over the course of about 3 or 4 years, you went to 100 funerals.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people dying, drugs, alcohol abuse, just addiction sucks. And families are torn apart, children are without parents, and people are losing their lives because of this addiction stuff. And so that's really, I'm taking it. Is that your why?
It's my why. And we always talk about, and I think this is sometimes where we misunderstand things, like we made it harder to bring heroin into the country. So we switched over to fentanyl, which is coming in through the ports. So like right now, we haven't had heroin in our heroin in probably 3 years. It's all fentanyl and other synthetics. But now that we're starting to crack down on the ports, what we're starting to see is, they call it trank dope, but it's actually a sedative. It's xylazine and medetomidine are actually manufactured here in the United States, so they're easier to access, and that's what we're starting to see in our supply now. So every time we pass a new law, they just find a more dangerous product to take its place.
So, I want to talk about Springfield Recovery Community Center.
Okay.
What do you guys do there specifically? Like, is it residential, non-residential? Like, what do you guys do? And, tell me that, first of all. What exactly is it?
Over the course of a month, we provide about 100 groups, life skills, recovery support groups, recovery enhancement groups, and then we also do things like last Friday, we had sober karaoke. This Saturday, I think there's a group of about 25 of us that are going to go bowling together. So we do lots of fun things in the community. We've got a stream team. We float 6 to 8 times a year. We picked up 8.5 tons of trash out of Missouri riverways.
Wow.
Through our stream team. We've partnered with Springfield Public Schools and repainted or rebuilt 11 elementary school playgrounds. Just people in recovery and their families giving back to make their community better.
So so you guys are trying to focus on, and it's not necessarily just staying busy, but giving people something, purpose. And a part of that is keeping people's time occupied. I know, like, I've dealt with people that are in recovery and they're always wanting something to do.
Yeah.
It just seems like their mind's always going.
Well, I don't know. I would say SAMHSA says there's 4 dimensions of recovery. There's health, home, purpose, and community, and we give people that purpose and community. I mean, I have people that have been on probation for 5 years that we still see twice a month because they found their people, they found their family, and they found something they enjoy doing.
So what don't you guys do there? Let's talk about that.
We don't provide residential treatment. We do mostly recovery coaching. So we refer and work with other treatment providers. We don't provide recovery residents, but we work with multiple people that provide recovery housing. So I always say we help people find their why, and then we also serve as a bridge to resources.
There's a lot of resources out there, and even in Springfield, and so you guys aren't trying to reinvent the wheel. You're staying in your lane, and you know what your purpose is for the Springfield Recovery Community Center, and then you partner with these other organizations to provide, if people need more than what you guys have to offer. That's what I'm kind of hearing you say.
Yeah, we know what we do well, and we know what other people do well. Why would we try to take what they do well and do it okay?
Okay. So what wakes you up in the morning time?
Caffeine. Copious amounts of caffeine. But no, honestly, I saw a thing a long time ago where a guy asked, "Are you mad?" It was at a conference. And what he said is, MAD, like, not are you angry, but are you making a difference? So since I've seen that, like, every morning when I wake up, what can I do to make a difference in my life and the life of the people around me? And when I go to bed, I ask myself, what did I do today to make my life better and to make the lives of the people around me better?
That's awesome. So I'm interested, you know, you've been at this for a number of years now. Did you say 2012? Is that what it was?
January 31st, 2009 is
2009.
when I stepped into recovery. 2012 is when we started the nonprofit Better Life in Recovery.
So, I mean, 12, 13 years you've started that. Tell me about some of your greatest successes.
I mean, we have a brick and mortar. I mean, the first year we started off, we did 1 event. The next year we did 3 events. Eventually we got to where we were kind of bouncing from like free library space to free church space because we were doing something about once a week. And it got confusing for people. So I partnered with a couple other people, and together we opened up the Springfield Recovery Community Center. And at that time, Missouri didn't fund any recovery community centers. So at the time, I was the vice chair of the State Advisory Council for Substance Use and Prevention to the Department of Mental Health. And I got a couple people together, and it took us about a year to talk them into funding a couple recovery community centers. They funded 4. We were actually one of the first 2 that they funded. And they've seen such success that I think now, including what's funded through marijuana tax, there's 16 in the state of Missouri.
Wow. So when you talk about that, that's amazing, first of all, because I mean, I know you're not independently wealthy, you know, and so you're out grinding to get people to get, whether it's, I'm assuming a mixture of, you know, state, federal funding, but also donations, private, you know, and stuff like that.
I like to say we're not orphans and puppies. We're a hard group, especially since there's so many people that, especially in our community, that are like, well, they did this to themselves. So I think there's a lot of people that misunderstand, and it makes it really hard to do fundraising for this, especially since we have faith-based stuff. We have a church that meets there on Sunday, but at the end of the day, I see this as my ministry, but at the same time, it's relational. It's not about saving people and introducing them to Christ. It's about loving on people as Christ would. I like to say Jesus didn't hit people upside the head with the Gutenberg version of the Bible and say, you got to be a Christian, because he was a Jew. And the Bible didn't exist. So instead, he talked and loved on people and talked to people about what came. I think he led by example. So,
you know, you had said before abstinence base, and now you're talking about faith base. Talk to us about the ethos of what, you know, Springfield Recovery Community Center is all about.
And at the end of the day, I think I wouldn't say I am abstinent-based. I would say I'm free of chaotic use because I still drink caffeine. I still eat sugar. Sugar is actually the deadliest worldwide. It kills more people than any other mind-altering drug. Like, it's a psychoactive chemical. And we don't tend to think of it that way. But so your question was, what do we do?
So just the ethos of so maybe not abstinence, but I mean, from complete caffeine or sugar or whatever. But I mean, if the person is like, oh yeah, I think I can be, I can do marijuana every now and then, or I can like do some fentanyl every now and then. What's your thoughts? And then how does your faith play a part of that?
I'm going to try to meet people where they're at. I'm also big on harm reduction. And how can we help somebody be healthier and help our community be safer?
What does harm reduction mean?
Harm reduction says what are ways that we can look at reducing harm. Like, say somebody goes from injecting drugs to snorting, or say, honestly, if somebody does move from injecting drugs to, say, smoking marijuana. I mean, I've lost hundreds of people to heroin and methamphetamine. I've only read about one person that died from weed. It was a guy named Steve, and I read a book where they said he was stoned to death. Sorry, probably not an appropriate joke, but
yeah, stoned. Wow.
But to me, they're at less risk. I mean, honestly, if we look at what the true gateway drug is probably alcohol, because alcohol impacts the prefrontal cortex and makes somebody more likely to make a poor decision. It's also why we find that if we can keep somebody from using until they're 21, that they're like 75% less likely to develop a use disorder than if they start using at 13, because their prefrontal cortex is more fully developed.
Okay. So, I'm kind of hearing you say, listen, your goal is to save people's lives. You don't want them to die.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we give out naloxone, which a lot of people call Narcan, for free. We have a box that sits outside that people can access 24 hours. We do fundraisers, write grants, everything we can to get naloxone, because I don't think any parent should have to bury their kid.
So what do you say to that person who just says, that's just prolonging it? I mean, because, eventually, they're not killing themselves there, but if they stay in that addictive lifestyle, it's just going to prolong it for them.
I was in that addictive lifestyle for 24 years. I've died 8 times. I tried treatment multiple times. And for me, the one thing that I never tried, that I finally tried 24 years later, was a combination of Christ and actually working through my trauma. So then, if somebody would have given up on me, I mean, I've been brought back 3 different times with naloxone. If somebody would have said, you know what, we tried once, shouldn't bring this guy back, all the good that I'm able to do in our community wouldn't be there today.
So then I'm hearing you kind of say your goal is to keep them alive until maybe they can find faith. Is that what the deal is? Because that's going to alter them or change them completely?
We
get down to the
I would say this. As a Christian, it's not my job to redeem somebody's soul. I can't. It's my job to keep people alive long enough for the Holy Spirit to work on them, and that can't happen if they're dead.
Yeah, and I mean, because that's right on. We don't. People always say, "Well, I was saved." Like, I'm in ministry, and sometimes it's easy for me. Like, oh yeah, I got people saved. Well, I don't get anyone saved. Jesus does. The Holy Spirit. I can present the gospel, give them the opportunity, and but Jesus is the only one that changes people's hearts and lives. And that's kind of what I want to get to, Dave, because you talk about being a hope dealer, and you even wrote a book about this. I want to show the graphic of his book. It's a really good book. I have had the book now, and I've read the book. It's Hope Dealer by David Stoecker. But in that, you don't shy away from the fact that you are a Christian. You do the work of, and I want the audience to get this and see this and understand it, because this is kind of my take on your ministry, what you're doing. You are meeting people where they are. You're non-judgmental. You've been there before. You're moving people from point A to point B to point C, but ultimately you don't shy away from, your goal is to have the opportunity to present the gospel to them. Is that correct or no?
I would say that's not my primary purpose.
Okay.
I work with people who are Muslim. I work with people that are atheists. I mean, I was an atheist for a good portion of my life. Now, I do want people to know that God loves them, and I want them to know that Jesus Christ loves them. But they're free to have their beliefs.
Yeah, you're not trying to force it down their throat.
I'm not trying to force anybody to change how they believe.
Yeah.
I'm just treating people the way I believe Jesus would have treated them.
Yeah. And then so when you talk about like even faith, I mean, I think a lot of times too, and you know, what Christian people would say is we don't want to be, I mean, obviously people can believe how they want to. I love people, you know, here and there. But if I believe that the way for their lives to improve now and for eternity is Jesus, I'm going to tell them that. I mean, yes, no, maybe so, or?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we started a Wednesday night worship just for that purpose, you know, so that people can actually have an encounter with the Christ I believe loved everybody, you know. It's the same way a grandparent looks at a grandkid. I may not be entirely happy with what you're doing, but I love you unconditionally. And my hope is that you make better choices.
Yeah, so that's good stuff. So kind of moving along on this in your work, your recovery work, have you been burned before? Burned to the point where it's like, man, why do I even do this?
You know, honestly, I had a real gut check recently. We put in a proposal for Robertson Elementary School. We were wanting to open up a behavioral health hub, have multiple organizations under the same roof so that people aren't having to run all over town from appointment to appointment, but could get everything, all their needs met at one place, like a one-stop shop. And we didn't end up getting that. And I'm not going to lie, man. I mean, it hit me. I really thought, because it was based on a point scale, I really thought that we had a good chance at getting it. And when I found out we didn't, I had to take a couple days away. Like, I mean, it kicked me into a little depression for a few days because you know, if you've ever written a grant or gone after something like that, you put in 6 weeks of really, really hard 24/7 work just to find out that obviously they didn't like our proposal enough and thought they found something else that would be better for Springfield and the parents and youth of Springfield Public Schools.
So I don't know if you guys have been following this story in the news, but over the last month or so, I'd say probably, going back a couple months, Robertson Elementary School, they're moving. I think they're moving over by the AG headquarters. Aren't they building a new building over there somewhere? But
I'm not sure.
I think that's where it is. But so their school is now vacant, and there's like 6 or 7 organizations that are vying for it. And I know that David Stoecker and his team, they put out a grant, and I remember following this, you know, your story, and I was hoping that you guys get it. When I was the pastor of the St. Louis Dream Center, I worked for Joyce Meyer Ministry, and we were doing good work in the community. Every single day, we had about 1,000 people that came to our church, our outreach for something. Clothes, shelter, food. We did educational programs. We had about 70 different programs, and I was doing exactly what you were doing, was partnering with different organizations, everything from, you know, banks to GEDs, community college, and even people that come in and teach people how to have a savings account or how to tie a tie. And we had all these different organizations that would come to our Dream Center, about 40 different partners for 70 different programs, and we needed more space. And adjacent to us was this school that was abandoned. And man, we started doing all the work, the due diligence. We had Joyce on board with it. And then Ferguson hit. Mike Brown, hands up, don't shoot. And everything came to a screeching halt. And I'm gonna tell you this, David, to this day, that's the one that got away from me. That is the one that I still, that literally was 11 years ago. And I still look back and go, man, I wonder what could have been, what should have been. And so I know that was hard for me. And
Can I say one thing on what you just talked about? 1,000 people every day, 60 to 70 different ministries. That's what the church is supposed to be. You know, I talk about this all the time. Like, every church should be a community center. Like, I drive by churches and I see these huge, 30,000, 20,000 square foot buildings that sit empty 6 days a week. And I'm like, all that space and all the good, because that's what the church, it's not just supposed to be a community center, it's supposed to be the center of the community. And I think a lot of our churches have kind of gotten away from that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no denying that. And, it's a tough one for me because, like, I talk to the pastors in town, and I wish that they would expand their capacity to do more for the community. because, you see now, and I talk to a lot of the pastors in Springfield are my friends. And they're like, we just stay in our lane, which is, and I hate to say it, but give a good show on Sundays, and people are getting saved, because for me, that's what it's ultimately about. Everything I do in my ministry, even with Frontline Faith, it's about, hey, Jesus is the only way, the only truth, the only life. And so I'm unashamedly that. And with my ministry, with my media, with politics, anything that I go into, it's, hey, Jesus is my Lord and Savior. I want him to be yours too. If you think differently than me, that's fine. I still love you, but it's all about Jesus. And I do sometimes am with you that wish that churches that especially have the capacity would and could do more. And so, we have to, I guess for me, I try to lovingly encourage, motivate, challenge them. Frustration and then making, enemies, that doesn't really help a lot there too. So
I get that. I just, as I see so many people in this area that are crying for less, smaller government, church is going to have to step up because the government is taking over a lot of the programs that the church used to provide. It doesn't anymore.
We have absolutely abdicated, and we're okay saying, well, we give you money, so go and take care of the orphans, take care of the hospitals, take care of the widows, take care of feeding people. No. If we want smaller government, less money sent to the government to give for USAID or to give to other, then we have to start stepping up. And you're absolutely right, my man. But I think that's how it should be. Because for us, when I was at the Dream Center, when we literally had, we were ministering to about 1,000 people every day. That took hundreds of volunteers. I mean, we're talking faithful, committed volunteers. We had a staff of about 33 people. And that was for our church. We had a church of about 600. We had the outreach center. We did something every single day. We had people living on, campus. We had a facility. It was kind of like a teen challenge of 40 men there. But we had, in addition to that 33 staff, we had about 300 volunteers that were coming. But see, I love that because I think we need to be giving of our time, our treasure, our talent on a consistent basis. That gives us purpose when we're out volunteering. And so that's a good thing there. I want to talk a little bit, and we're talking with David Stoecker. He is a hope dealer. He runs the Springfield Recovery Community Center. And I was practicing that because I didn't want to get it wrong. The Springfield Recovery Community Center. Before I was saying the Springfield Community Recovery Center, but no, it's the Springfield Recovery Community Center. And but I want to talk about how you make that happen. And do you need help from the community? I mean, what do you need?
Right now, we're trying to work on actually bringing in more money from the community because funding right now is up in flux for a lot of organizations. We know, okay, right now we have this contract, but after this next contract is up, honestly, we have no clue because of how the climate is right now, what funding will be available. So we're trying to build more consistent donors from within the community. I've got a couple of people that are now going out and approaching businesses and talking to businesses about becoming like monthly donors or, yearly donors. We run shuttles a lot, and right now we have 2 vans that are probably in the shop more than they're on the road. They're older, so we're also trying to find somebody who can donate vans or help us get some new vans, doing a fundraiser for those. So yeah, I think those are 2 of our big needs, and a space. We need a bigger space. Last year we had 22,000 people through our doors. There's some nights we have 100 people through the door, and we feed 100 people when they come in on a couple of those days. So, and I think if the fire marshal came, we might not quite be large enough for the group we have in there on occasion. So, we've also reached out to a couple churches and are looking for some ways that maybe we could share a space with somebody where they do have that sitting empty 6 days a week.
Yeah. So, David, I talk to a lot of people that have nonprofits and that are good at finding a need, meeting a need, working towards a need. And I know you and your family, you guys are given to that, but it's difficult for you guys to ask for money.
I'm not good at it. I tried timeshare once, when I lived in Branson, and after a couple of weeks, I quit. and because I didn't make any sales.
Yeah.
And my manager was like, David, I got to be honest with you. This is not for you. But he said, you're the best tour guide I have, but you are not a closer.
Well, here's
he said, you got to be a closer.
And the reality is I have a background in sales, and, even for me, like I run my own nonprofit, Alex Bryant Ministry, and, I'm able to do what I do because of monthly partners. And I'm going to tell you guys this, people always say, well, how come you always, have other people on who need money and this and that? Here's the deal. And I want, keep that camera on me. I believe in what this guy's doing. I've seen the sacrifice, the dedication, the commitment. He needs your help. One of the reasons why I wanted him on here is because I am all for DOGE and the government cuts. But we said this, when the government's not giving money and grants, we need you to help. And this guy is living this life. He's able to go places, to do things, to talk to people with credibility that you and I never could. I don't know what it's like to overdose. I don't know what it's like to be strung up. I don't know what it's like to be in prison. I'm too pretty to go to jail. You know what I'm saying? But he's willing to do that. He's willing to put his family, their livelihood, their lifestyle on it. But we need your help. He needs your help. I'm asking you to connect with him and give. The guy said they need some vans. They're doing the work. He's working 9 days a week to do this kind of recovery. His wife's over there shaking her head. I know because I'm friends with these people, but they need your help. And so he's not willing to ask, but I am. So put it back on Dave. Tell him I need you to give him your website, every way that they can get in touch with you, emails, phone numbers, because with the change of what's happening with our government climate, we the people, the church, we're going to have to step up and make sure that people like you who are willing to go and do the work are capable and able to do that. So how can they connect with you?
Website is www.betterlifeinrecovery.com. The number at the center is 417-368-0852. It's at 1925 East Bennett in Suite J is the actual community center. If you want to drop by, see what we do, maybe offer to volunteer sometime, because as much as we need money, we can always use volunteers as well. Because it takes a lot of people when you run, 100 people through there in a 2-hour period.
Yeah. Well, you're doing great work. When we're done with this segment, we're going to throw that on our social media. We'll put it on the Facebook Live so that the people can get that information. Man, you're doing great work. You're a hope dealer. And check out his book, too, David Stoecker, Hope Dealer. Can I get that on Amazon? Or where can I get that? Yeah. Amazon, Hope Dealer with David Stoecker. It's a great book. He's willing to do the work, but he needs your help. And again, with the change in what's happening with the government, we, as Christian people, the church, we're going to have to take that back in. Our neighbors, our loved ones, our family members are dying of drug and addiction and overdose. And we can do something. You can be a helper in the Hope Dealer with Springfield Recovery Community Center. It's a great organization. They've been around since 2012, nonprofit. David's been doing this work since 2009. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to help people. They're willing to do the work. We need you to help. And so, yeah, so man, David, thank you for coming in. I'm gonna give you the final word. What's the last things that, anything you want to leave us with? Yeah, actually do this. I want you to look into your camera and look into your camera right over here and leave them with a word of hope for the people.
At the end of the day, there is a better life in recovery. And I think one of the best things that you can do is come by the center, give us a call, and ask questions. If you're interested in any kind of change, because I believe everybody deserves to be treated with respect and compassion, no matter what choices they may be making in their life or where their life may be at. So if you or a loved one need help or have any questions, please give us a call, 417-368-0852, or stop by the center there on Bennett and see what we do and see how we can help you make your life the best possible life you can have.
Man, that's awesome. So thanks for joining me here in the studio in Rogersville, Frontline Faith of Alex Bryant, David Stoecker. We're going to throw their information up on the social so that you can get it, but connect with them. So thanks for joining me here. Hey, we got a lot more show here in about 20 minutes. We are going to have an interview with Bishop Garland Hunt. He's with the Douglas Leadership Institute. It's Black History Month, and we're going to touch base on that. Frederick Douglass, one of the leaders there. But also, I got the top 3 stories of the hour. We'll talk about reciprocal tariffs. We'll go into a little bit on that Trump's trying to do. We also will talk about some of the Republicans, how they're disagreeing with the way that Trump is dealing with Zelensky and Ukraine. We're there. And then we got a local story. One of our senators Senators is trying to introduce a bill that will allow a little bit of our tax dollars to go with our students. And so we'll go into that stuff. But so right now, Frontline Faith with Alex Bryant. David Stoecker, thanks for joining us. Let's keep it going.
I'm Kristi Noem, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. Thank you, President Donald J. Trump, for securing our border and putting America first. Let me deliver a message from President Trump to the world. If you are considering entering America illegally, don't even think about it. Let me be clear. If you come to our country and you break our laws, we will hunt you down. Criminals are not welcome in the United States. For too long, weak leadership has left our borders wide open, flooding our communities with drugs, human trafficking, and violent criminals. Well, those days are over. Under President Trump, we are defending American families and restoring their safety. If you try to enter illegally, you will be caught, you will be removed, and you will never return. Follow the law, and you'll find opportunity. If you break it, you'll find consequences. Strong borders mean a stronger America. President Trump is making America safe.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
How far have we come?
What happened?
It was supposed to be different.
What happened? Where did we go wrong?
Where did we go wrong?
It was supposed to be different.
Where did we go wrong?
What happened?
What happened? It was supposed to be different.
It was supposed to be different.
It was supposed to be different.
It was supposed to be different. Where did we go wrong? Where did we go wrong?
Where did we go wrong?
Let's reimagine. Imagine if someone willingly gave up their seat for Rosa Parks on that bus. Imagine a school where Black students were welcomed with open arms and a smile. Imagine a place where all could be served. Imagine if our streets were safe for everybody, no matter your skin color. Let's reimagine, because I too have a dream.
Let's reimagine.
Because I have a dream.
Because I have a dream.
Let's reimagine.
Because I have a dream.
Because I have a dream. Let's reimagine. Because I have a dream. Because I have a dream.
Let's reimagine.
Because I have a dream.
Let's start again.
Let's start again.
Let's start again.
I have a dream that one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today.
Let's start again.
to Frontline Faith with Alex Bryant. Hey, a couple things. Top stories of the day. Let's get to it. Top stories of the day. All right, well, we'll just go.
Top stories of the day.
All right, I got a couple of top stories, and just to remind you, Bishop Garland Hunt with the Douglas Leadership Institute from down in Atlanta, he's going to be joining us here in about 15 minutes. But let me just get through a couple of these top stories, some news items that I'm noticing that I want to look at. First one is reciprocal tariffs. Trump is all about the tariffs, baby. He just talked about in his interview last night with Elon Musk and Sean Hannity how we're gonna use tariffs. Countries are taking advantage of us, and he's like, I'm done with that. So last Thursday he introduced this concept, reciprocal tariffs. That he wrote this on Truth Social. He says, on trade, I've decided for purposes of fairness that I will charge a reciprocal tariff, meaning whatever countries charge the United States of America, we will charge them. No more, no less. I absolutely think that's fair. I'm getting tired of us being taken advantage of. When we send products into Canada, Mexico, China, you name the country, Bahamas, we're paying tariffs. Our products that our companies in America want to sell in Bahama, everything, 32% tariff. You can send over a pen, an iPhone, whatever it is. If it's made in America, they're going to charge a 32% tariff. And what Trump is saying is that's not fair. He wants products made here in America. He wants companies doing business here in America. It's time for America first. So on Saturday, Trump doubled down with a presidential memorandum. He came in and he vowed to use reciprocal tariffs as a response to countries charging the U.S. Trump is hammering down this point. He stated that if another country lowers tariffs on the U.S., then we will respond in kind. We're tired of being taken advantage of. And then yesterday, I'm actually going to play this video. Yesterday, he said in a speech on Truth, or he said in a speech when he was doing, here's a thing that he had to say yesterday about reciprocal tariffs.
We'll no longer allow other countries to ransack and plunder our nation. That's why I've announced that we will soon begin imposing reciprocal tariffs on any country that engages in unfair and unequal trading practices. If they tariff us, as I said, we will tariff them at the exact same rate. So if a certain country, because some of these countries, even countries that I've already mentioned, are extremely aggressive with tariffs. Nobody knows that. European Union, they have a VAT tax that's devastating. It's very tough for people on the outside. Hard to sell cars. Really impossible to sell them because they also have non-monetary tariffs that are very, very tough. But if you take a look at that, it's a very unfair situation. And the VAT tax is similar to the tariff.
So here's what Trump is saying. He's like, look, bring your products here to America. These reciprocal tariffs will apply, but however, if you manufacture or build your products in the U.S., you won't have any tariffs added. I don't see a problem with that. I mean, you want a president, the leader of our country, focusing on making our country great. I remember when Trump, when he was president the first time, about 4 years ago, when he went to Davos, the World Economic Forum, he's like, look, I'm focusing on making America great again, just like I would expect the leader of Switzerland to focus on making Switzerland great again. The leader of Germany focus on making Germany great again. The leader of, Tanzania focusing on making them great again. He's like, my job as the president is to make America great. And you look at the leader of Argentina, he came in with a little bit of MAGA-ism in him, and he has focused on that. The new president, he's been there for about 3 or 4 years, he's turned that country around. Make Argentina great again. That's what their focus is. And countries should be doing the same thing. That's what you want a leader. So with this pledge, Trump's administration can now conduct a review, and this is with the presidential memorandum that he signed there. So they can conduct a review, and it's for issuing tailored tariffs for each country, focusing on 5 key areas. Number 1, U.S. goods tariffs imposed by that nation. So if you're putting a tariff on us, we're going to put a tariff on you. We've learned, and I've learned through study and research here lately, that with the Bahamas, and I've been there before, any products that we sell there, automatically 32% tariff. Some products, they even put tariffs on more. You look at Canada. When Wisconsin sends their milk into Canada, 329% tariff. That's what's up. And so Trump is saying, same, what you do for us is we're going to do to you. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. What? I'm keeping it real. I'm keeping it real. And so the second thing he talks about is this. He's tailoring these tariffs for countries by focusing on these 5 key areas. Number 2 area is unfair taxes levied. Some countries are just jacking us. You know why iPhones and all these other products, cars and stuff have been produced overseas? Because, like, so for example, you look at what Japan did, or these foreign car makers. After, the World War II, they decided to focus on their manufacturing. And then what they did was, when they're focusing on their own manufacturing, they said, hey, we want you to produce and buy our cars. We're going to send our cars over to you, but if you want to sell something, 200% tariff. They don't have Harley Davidsons over in other countries because it's just too much. Like, you produce here in America. So then now Harley Davidson, for the first time in his last couple of years, decided they're going to be producing Harley Davidson motorcycles. They're going to be making them outside of America. That's not right. Because of the policies and to sell the products over in other countries, these countries are realizing, our American countries are going, well, it makes sense to produce it over there. What Trump's saying, no, we're going to reverse that. And these are unfair taxes being levied. Here is the 5 focus areas for these taxes being levied. Here's the third one. The financial import on U.S. businesses and consumers due to foreign countries' policies. Their policies are trying to make it to where they're forcing us to produce these stuff over there. The third one, exchange rates. If you've ever traveled to other countries, they put what they call duties and exchange rates. Trump's saying we're looking at all that stuff. It's not fair. He's going to make it fair. And then the fifth one, any other discriminatory trade practice identified by the trade representative. So he has the Secretary of State on it, the Commerce Secretary. They're looking at these things, and they're saying we're looking at every single country that is imposing tariffs on us. You put them on us, we're going to put them on you. And I'm all down for it. I'm all down for it. That's what, reciprocity to our system of fair trade and balance. And so on Friday of last week, the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, he said that the Commerce Department will have completed its study on this issue here in about a month and a half, April 1st. And he warned that it's not theater. He said, Trump ain't playing around, people. You should take Trump at his word. That's what Scott Bessent said. And so Trump is dead serious about putting America first, and we should all be thankful. We should all be thankful. Thank you, Mr. President. Don't let your hatred of Trump stop you from wanting him to do what's best for our country. Duh Bears. That's always appropriate. All right, so I'm so random. I know I am too. I'm random with myself. Okay, so what do the reciprocal tariffs do? As well as forcing major powers like China and the European Union to lower their duties. That's what he's trying to do. Lower your duties against us, what we have to pay to get our products over there. The president also believes that reciprocal tariffs will boost his America First economic policy by narrowing the country's trade deficit. He's like, if you don't lower your tariffs, then we're going to make money because you guys want to sell your products here and there. I shared with you a couple weeks ago how literally it's 30% of all the goods and products sold or that Mexico produces are sold in the United States. And the same with like China, Canada, like 25%. Those countries need us. Literally like almost 1.5% of our products are sold that we produce are sold in Mexico and Canada. We don't need them like they need us. And this is what Trump knows, America first. And at the same time, he wants to improve the competitiveness of U.S. manufacturers. Trump saved the steel industry in the United States because we were importing a lot of the steel from other countries because we had so many regulations on us producing it, and it cost too much to go over to other countries, so they wasn't buying it. And Trump deregulated during his first presidency. Our steel companies here in Pittsburgh, they were able to send their steel to other places. Trump put tariffs on steel that was being imported. The dude knows how to put America first. And so that's the deal. Again, other countries, like China, they have a 15% border tax. That means no matter what, if you want to send a U.S. product over to China, as soon as it hits the port, bam, 15%. That's on top of everything else, all the other duties with specific different products that they're trying to sell there. And then same with Bahama, 32%. And so that's the deal there. Reciprocal tariffs, I'm all for them. Second top story. Some Republicans disagree with the way Trump is handling Zelensky and really what started that war over there. So, this is where the controversy all started. It was from a press conference last week. Let me play this clip for you. There's a little controversy brewing.
Do you have any message for Ukrainians who, after 3 years of fighting, might feel betrayed or disappointed at not having a seat at these initial talks in Saudi Arabia?
Well, I think I'm really disappointed in what's happened. I've been watching this for 3 years. It's a war that would have never happened if I was president. And I've been watching these people being killed at levels that you've rarely seen, not even close, since the Second World War. And I'm very disappointed. I hear that, they're upset about not having a seat. Well, they've had a seat for 3 years and a long time before that. This could have been settled very easily. Just a half-baked negotiator could have settled this years ago without the loss of much land, very little land, without the loss of any lives, and without the loss of cities that are just laying on their sides. You have those magnificent golden domes that are shattered, will never be replaced. You can't replace them. 1,000-year-old domes that are so beautiful, you can't replace that. The whole civilization has changed because of what. So when they're worried about not being seated, you mean somebody that should have gone in and made a deal a long time ago.
All right, so, Trump, he's talking about these, Zelensky. Here's the deal. I think that Trump was wrong in that Zelensky didn't start this war. Obviously, Putin attacked them. He was having them do it. I think Trump's frustrated. He's doubling down on who started the war in Ukraine. He obviously was wrong on that. But he's frustrated that Zelensky is publicly challenging his handling of the negotiations to end this war. And this all really kind of goes down to this. I mean, Russia is saying, hey, listen, we're wanting to negotiate this. Trump is frustrated with Zelensky, too, because he believed that he's politicized this whole issue. If you remember, when Zelensky was wanting money for his war, he basically came to the United States and did a campaign tour with Kamala Harris. Went up to Pennsylvania, was talking about how, he was talking about how great the administration has been, Biden, Harris, with working with him, funding him. So Zelensky's wanting money. So he basically did a free campaign rally with Kamala Harris. You don't think Trump noticed that? Trump's not down with that. And so, there's this little bit of a public feud there. And so now Zelensky doesn't like it because Trump said, I want to end this war. Zelensky wants the money train to keep going. I've said before publicly, I was all down for us paying money to keep, or for Ukraine to fight this war with Russia. We've decimated 1 million Russian soldiers just by a fraction of our military budget. But I do think maybe it's time now. And I think a lot of American people, a lot of people feel like, hey, it's time. We're at a stalemate. You guys have fought valiantly, Ukraine. I'm glad that you were able to do that, but it's time for this war to end. So how Trump goes about it, I think he made a mistake when he said Zelensky started the war. When he's wrong on that. He misspoke, but it is time to end this. Now, Mike Pence, he commented about this publicly. We know that Mike Pence, between Pence and Trump, there's no love lost. Mike Pence said, Mr. President, Ukraine did not start this war. Russia launched an unprovoked and brutal invasion, claiming hundreds of thousands of lives. The road to peace must be built on the truth. And that was former President Mike Pence. And, he's right. So that's the deal there. Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana, he's a Republican from Louisiana. He also disagrees with Trump on who started this war, and he is supporting Zelensky. Here's what he had to say on this.
Here's where I disagree with the White House. To the extent that the White House said that Ukraine started the war, I disagree. I think Vladimir Putin started the war. I also believe, through bitter experience, that Vladimir Putin is a gangster. He's a gangster with a black heart. He makes Jeffrey Dahmer look like Mother Teresa. He has Stalin's taste for blood. I don't want to get between President Zelensky and President Trump. I never get between a dog and a fire hydrant, man. That's the way I live my life. I think they're both good men. I think they both want the same thing. And I think we will get there.
I'm with Senator Kennedy on this one. They're both good men. I do believe that. I like Zelensky. He's fought valiantly. He's led his country. Putin wants him out. His presidency is officially over, but he's declared martial law since they've been in a war. Putin saying, hey, one of the caveats of negotiating the end of this war is we want Zelensky out, because Putin wants to try to put in a puppet. But, man, that's not good for Ukraine. I think the Ukrainians like Zelensky. And so, yeah. We're going to get to the other top three story afterwards. We'll just kind of push that, because right now you're in for a special treat. We have Bishop Garland Hunt. He is going to be joining us. But before we do that, let me give you this announcement. 40 Days for Life. I announced this the other day. 40 Days for Life. Help save lives here in Springfield. You can protect mothers and children by joining this worldwide mobilization through prayer and fasting, peaceful vigils, and community outreach. 40 Days for Life has inspired over 1 million volunteers. Here's what's happening. There's a few groups that are coming together to sponsor some trainings. On February 22nd at 1 p.m., you can go to Life 360 Church over in Chesterville. You can go and get trained on how to be a part of the prayer, the fasting, and the vigils. And then at 3 p.m., you can go to the Library Center. That's in Room B. They're going to be doing a training. And then on February 23rd at 10:30, Calvary Chapel Church in Springfield. You can get trained there and at 10:30, and then again at 12:30. So 40 Days for Life. Sign up. Go to 40daysforlife.com. You can sign up to volunteer. So, hey, let's get to this word from our sponsor, 417. They host our show here, 417, and then we'll come back with an interesting interview with Bishop Garland Hunt.
Interesting interviews.
All right, welcome back to Frontline Faith, Alex Bryant. Let's bring him on. We got Bishop Garland Hunt. He is joining us. When I was on the radio with Morning Talk Radio, I started interviewing Bishop Garland Hunt with the Douglas Leadership Institute. We were doing it a couple times a month. And man, this guy he's doing a lot of wonderful work. He is the executive director of the Douglas Leadership Institute. He's also the senior pastor of the Father's House in Norcross, Georgia, and the co-founder of the One Race Movement. He is a pastor, a community leader, a world leader, and he's doing great work. Bishop, thanks for joining us on Frontline Faith. Welcome to our show this morning. How are you, sir?
Good. How you doing, Alex? And congratulations on your new program.
Hey, thank you so much. So first of all, before we dive into, I want to talk a little bit. It's Black History Month, and we're going to talk a little bit about Frederick Douglass. That's what I want to talk about. He is obviously one of Frederick Douglass is one of the most admired statesmen in our country's history. In fact, when President Trump posted his proclamation for Black History Month, Frederick Douglass was the first person he mentioned. And so tell us why it's called the Douglas Leadership Institute. Let's start with that, sir.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty clear. I mean, I do agree. To me, and I love the fact that Frederick Douglass was the first one that the president mentioned. He was just profound to go at slavery and then to be free and then do all the profound things that we'll talk about. I think that it's no doubt. Oh, you can't hear me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I can hear you. I was talking to my producer. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're on a solo shot. Yeah, we got you going.
Okay, good. So yeah, but it was very profound, and I thought that it's no doubt that to establish an organization that deals with the Black family, that deals with preserving life, that deals with economic advancement for the Black community, and also in a Black family, and also justice issues. All these issues are things that Frederick Douglass stood upon. So we felt like Douglass was the right person to name the whole organization after, because as a namesake for the organization, he really does personify the focus, the mission, and the intent of our Leadership Institute. So, and we're proud to carry that name, because I can see nothing in his background that causes us any shame. We're very proud of the heroic efforts that he took as being a tremendous man of God, as well as being a statesman.
Man, I love what you guys are doing there at the Douglas Leadership Institute. You're a coalition of pastors and faith leaders around the country. Last summer, in June, I had a chance to come to a conference in Atlanta. You were speaking at it, and I had a chance to hear you. And I remember I don't often get impressed, if you will, by a lot of people. I travel 40 weekends out of the year speaking myself, but I remember as soon as you were done speaking, I made a beeline to you. I don't know if you remembered it. And you were trying to walk out. You had to get to another place. So I was like, sir, please give me a card. I got to talk with you. I love what you're saying, because you're talking to the Black family. You're conservative, and you literally are talking about some of the pillars and the things that we need to do, which is a message that's counterintuitive to what we're getting from mainstream media and from just traditional American history, really. So, give it, and I know, this is stuff that you talk about all the time, but if you remember at that conference, you were talking about how we need Black fathers in the home, how abortion is definitely killing 30 million Black babies in here, how, the prison systems, we need to make sure that, our Black fathers are staying in their homes and being the fathers. So I don't want to give your message, but can you opine on that just a little bit? Give us some of your wisdom on that, Bishop Hunt.
Well, yeah, I was talking at that particular meeting. I was talking about I have actually 12 issues, which is too much to go in now. Matter of fact, I'm in the process of writing them and putting them in a pamphlet and eventually a book, because I do believe that we have to target the areas where is the biggest challenge. A person does a SWOT and they talk about how, what are the biggest threats. That I think that these areas are biggest threats to the Black family. So we have to preserve and protect our family. But when you deal with abortion, it's genocide. It's literal genocide anywhere where since the 1973 the Roe versus Wade decision. You're talking about 60 million babies that have been murdered. Well, of that percentage, you have at least 20, probably more than 30 million Black babies murdered in the womb. So if that's the case, that's greater than the population of the Black community back in the 1960s. We've annihilated a whole race, actually, from the genocidal impact of Planned Parenthood. And so you have to look at that. That's an attack on the Black family that's keeping us in a position where, and again, I'm not trying to compare, but just if you look at the example, even with the Hispanic community has surpassed the Black community. Here we are enslaved here, but we surpassed, and you ask why? Well, part of that is because of the depopulation of Black America as it relates to the Black babies that are murdered in the womb. And you go from that on, and you deal with, well, what then are the problems that relate to the Black family? And then one of them is fatherlessness. There's no doubt about it. When you look at all the indicators, all the measurements of success, education, economic success, all these other areas that you look, even potential marriage, legacy, those things, all of them center around and are changed based on absence or the presence of a father. So fatherlessness is a wreck attack. So I did that whole list when we met, and I don't mind even in some subsequent broadcasts going through all that. But the point I'm making is we established Douglas Leadership Institute to protect basically the Black family. If you really got to talk about our sweet spot, it's about the Black family. Because if we don't protect and encourage and support and defend the Black family, we'll, as a community, we might as well be annihilated. They talk about annihilating Israel. We will annihilate ourselves if we don't protect our Black family.
And Bishop, a lot of people would say, well, no, you're not supporting the black family. You're tearing it down because are you trying to say that we are the problem? I mean, people don't want you to use words like murder when it comes to abortion. It's supposed to just be choice. And are you against black women for, calling it that? And now if you're tearing down the black family, you're not supposed to talk about those things when that's the one thing I love about what you guys are doing at the Douglas Leadership Institute. You are educating us on the true history. You went into Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger. A lot of black people don't know that, the history of Planned Parenthood, how she founded these organizations were founded to exterminate black babies. Right. And so I know, Frederick Douglass said this, if there's no struggle, there's no progress. Now, the first part of that quote was, power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did. It never will. If there's no struggle, there's no progress. Now, I want to put it in this because a lot of times, Bishop Hunt, people use that in our community like, oh, well, we're struggling against the white man. I'm seeing us struggling within ourselves. I mean, am I wrong on that, Bishop?
Oh, no, you're absolutely right, Alice. The issue, and see, this is why the major message for the black community can be broken down to one word. And sometimes this is the most offensive word, even though it's a biblical word. It's repent. We got to get ourselves right with God first. And this is why, so you don't think about repentance when you're blaming a white person for victimizing us. So as long as we stay as a victim, you don't even think that you need to repent. Everybody else around us needs to repent. But in reality, he's looking for us. Isaiah 59, when it talks about justice, truth, thrown down in the streets, he constantly says, but your sins are piled up against you. You're crying out for justice. I don't even hear you because your sins are piled up. We got to break this down of our own sins, of our own culture. And many people don't like that. They say, well, you're airing out dirty laundry publicly. Wait a minute. If you're going to protest publicly, if you're going to break windows, if you're going to do a George Floyd and Black Lives Matter, you're going to do all that publicly. We also have to call our own community back to the foundation of the Bible and say the Bible saying first we have to get ourselves right with God. If my people that call by my name shall humble themselves, and then the part I love the most, listen, not only humility, but you have to repent from your wicked ways. You gotta change your wicked ways, because then I'll hear from heaven. So the bottom line of it is that, yes, I know the black community, no one wants to be able to say that we are where we start. But God deals with us first. That's where we have to start. When we start talking about improving the black family, someone has to be a voice. And I just see such a lack in the pulpits, in the leadership, that's challenging the black community to rise up to another biblical standard, as opposed to protesting about what somebody else has or has not done for you as a people.
I love that, Bishop Hunt. We're talking with Bishop Garland Hunt of the Douglas Leadership Institute. And I'm just going to say this one other thing to add to that. I've always said that the black community, we need a players-only meeting. We need to go in a room with ourselves, like, you get the coaches out of here and let's talk. Right. And they need to hear from people like you who have that message. But unfortunately, a lot of black leaders don't want to do that. So we are using this platform. And I love the way that you're speaking out and using your platform there at Douglas Leadership Institute. I do want to talk, and again, Frederick Douglass, it's Black History Month. Let's get into, I want to kind of educate the people a little bit on Frederick Douglass. Maybe tell us about some of the lesser known facts about Frederick Douglass, and give us some of those details on him.
Well, actually, he was born into slavery. Because he was such a profound orator, most people don't even realize that he lived as a slave, but he did. And his mother actually, it's estimated that he was born about 1818. But it's interesting because he really didn't know his birth date. So therefore, he chose February 14th because that was, in fact, the last time that he saw his mother alive. And she actually held him, and she actually gave him a heart-shaped little ginger cake. And they gave him to him as he sat on his lap that day. So it's interesting. So he chose that day because that meant something to him as it relates to there. And of course, we do Valentine's Day in that regard. But for me, actually, when I realized that, I said, man, that's something we need to celebrate, the birth of a man like him. But he also, listen, it was, of course, it was illegal for slaves to learn. But one of the biggest things about him is that he had to learn. So actually, he had, again, a slave master's wife came in to start teaching him. And then they rebuked him about it. So a lot of what he had to be learned was self-taught. He had to come out of there. But he also, nothing you may not know is he did have a conversion to Christ. But his conversion to Christ came while he was enslaved. As a matter of fact, they had incarcerated because he tried to have a slavery escape, and it was at the walk. So the first time he tried to escape, it didn't work. So they had him and others that were in it with him. And then during that time is when he gave his life to the Lord. He had a legitimate encounter with God. And that took place while he was still a slave. So things like that are things, but most people don't know, man, he was an ambassador. He's had such a profound lifestyle. As a matter of fact, they even questioned whether he was a slave, so he had to go back and he had to write his own biography and an autobiography. Excuse me. And so then he had to show that he in fact was a slave. But when he did it, listen to this. When he did it, Alex, that it exposed where he escaped. Now, he later on, at that point, he was not a free slave. So he had to go to Europe. He stayed in Europe. They offered him to buy his freedom. So when he came back to America, he bought his own freedom. That's one of the reasons why he had to escape, because he wrote his own autobiography. And when he did that, that in fact made him culpable for potentially being caught as a runaway slave. And so he had to actually go to another country and then come back as a free slave. So anyway, numbers like that we don't know. I mean, one more thing that impresses me, during the Civil War, blacks were, they weren't even involved in it. And then before that, they were sure treated badly. He became an advocate for blacks that were involved in the war, of course, representing the North. And so out of that, he had an incredible relationship with Abraham Lincoln. So Abe Lincoln, of course, was one of the key people in the nation as not only a statesman, but the president of the United States. But he would say publicly that this is one of my best friends and one of the most profound speakers and orators in the world. So he honored Frederick Douglass, and Frederick Douglass was one that really fought for the rights of blacks that were in the military, that they would be treated fairly. So numbers of things like that we don't think about when we think about Frederick Douglass. But he was one that was always, not only was, of course, he clearly was against slavery and the anti-abolitionist movement. He was involved with that, even when they were doing Harriet Tubman was doing the Underground Railroad. He was also involved on the back end of making sure those things, free slaves or escaped slaves were taken care of and protected. So he also maintained relationships with those that were enslaved and talked with them, but he talked to the highest in society. He's the most photographed statesman. I mean, black and white. I mean, there's no one that's photographed more than him. And you know why? Because he hated the image of blacks being enslaved, kind of that fetch him kind of, yes, a boss kind of person. So anytime he took a picture, he was dressed nicely. His hair was combed. He was stately. As a matter of fact, you very often don't even find a picture of him smiling, because he didn't want to give the impression that black people were just always, yes, some boss kind of people, but that we can be stately, we can be political, we can be a man of God. So he's actually one of the most photographed pioneers of his whole era. I'll stop
I love
there.
that. No, I love that, Bishop Hunt. And I mean, when you were saying that, some of the statements that I know that he was known for saying, I prayed for 20 years, but received no answer until I prayed with my legs. And when you were telling us some of the things about him, I mean, this is a guy who was not only saying, this is what I want, this is what I'm praying for, but the man put some feet to his faith. And so the Douglas Leadership Institute, and again, I appreciate all the work you guys are doing. So we're going to have you on. We're going to try to get you on a couple times a month. We want you to be a regular on Frontline Faith and with Alex Bryant. But I want you to leave us just on, again, a word of hope. I love it when, you and men of faith that are working in this. You're working to educate the Douglas Leadership Institute. You guys are trying to educate, equip, and empower faith-based leaders to embrace and apply biblical priorities to life and in the marketplace. I love that. Leave us with the word of hope, Bishop Hunt.
Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you, I was recently in a prophetic round table. Rick Jordan does one every year, and I just left there this weekend. And I was just talking to one of the guys about the need for someone still to stand up for Black families. And the reason I say that is because, and again, this might be another issue that we want to talk about. I know I'm going to write about it as we go down. See, I came up in an era during the 60s where people were fighting for their rights, Black and I'm proud, all these different things. So now we've transferred our focus against some of the things that, of course, we should be against. I mean, DEI, CRT, Black Lives Matter, all these things all have been infiltrated into our society, which we need to get rid of because there are some issues. But it seems as though there's a message that says that Blacks can't stand up for Black people, or that it's unfavorable to say that you're representing the Black community. We have to encourage the Black family. We got to support. So even though I may say repent, it's also to encourage, to help them so that they can rise from a victim mentality to more of a success mentality. The Bible says literally, if you put the word of God in your heart, told Joshua, and you keep it before you, then you'll make your way prosperous. Then you'll make your way in good success. So I just want to say in hope for those that are African American that may be looking and listening, you have hope. God has his hand upon us. As long as we submit to the Lord, as long as we find his favor will be on us as a people. We don't have to worry about if you don't like what the government's doing. Let me be clear. The government's not your God. We have a God of our salvation. I thank God for our government, quite frankly, in this point. But I'm saying to you, that's still not an excuse for me not to do what Frederick Douglass says. I got to pray with my legs. I still have work to do. So we as a community still have work to do. But most of all, we got to get on our knees first and say, Lord, we need your favor. We need your grace. And there is hope. God's blessing, I believe, will be upon us as we submit to him.
That's so good. Bishop Garland Hunt, he's the executive director of the Frederick Douglass Leadership Institute. He's also the pastor of the church down there in Georgia, and he's one of the co-leaders of the One Race movement. Thank you so much. The Father's House in Norcross, Georgia. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you for joining us on Frontline Faith. We'll get you back here in a couple weeks. God bless you, my friend.
God bless you. Thank you, Alex.
What a great conversation. This man is on the front line. He's working, and he's gathering and galvanizing pastors, leaders. He's training them, equipping, educating, and empowering faith-based leaders. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, brown. That's their goal at the Douglas Leadership Institute. Check it out at dlinstitute.org, dlinstitute.org. So, hey, we're almost coming to the end of this. I got one more top 3 story, but I'm going to put that in what people are talking about, and we'll do that after this promotional video for one of our sponsors. If you want to sponsor Frontline Faith with Alex Bryant, we have opportunities, but this one's with Will Worsham Law Firm. Check this.
I'm Will Worsham. After 20 years in criminal law, I shifted gears because I saw too many families suffer when the estate plan they thought was solid wasn't. Parents thought they had it all taken care of, only for their kids to find out too late that they didn't. That's why I created Worsham Workshops, entertaining, informative where families learn to avoid the most common pitfalls in estate planning. You don't have to leave your family. Join a Worsham Workshop and see why so many families trust us with their legacy. Visit worshamworkshops.com or call us today. today. I'm Will Worsham. After 20 years in criminal law, I shifted gears because I saw too many families suffer when the estate plan they thought was solid wasn't. Parents thought they had it all taken care of, only for their kids to find out too late that they didn't. That's why I created Worsham Workshops, entertaining, informative sessions where families learn to avoid the most common pitfalls in estate planning. You don't have to leave your family's legacy to chance. Join a Worsham Workshop and see why so many families trust us with their legacy. Visit worshamworkshops.com or call us today.
What people are talking about.
All right, we're back. Frontline Faith, Alex Bryant. What people are talking about. Let me give you this. I got a couple of things, and I'm going to start with this new inside Missouri. We got a couple of Missouri senators that are proposing a tax credit for homeschool and private school families. So Missouri's homeschool families and those that enrolled in private school, you could receive a tax credit for educational expenses. And that's according to legislation that was filed on Tuesday by State Senator Rick Bratton. He's a Republican from Harrisonville area, and he's the bill's sponsor. So the tax credit would be capped at the annual state adequacy target of $7,145. Now, that number is determined by the per pupil expenditure of the highest performing school districts in the state. It's been stagnant for about a decade. I'm on the school board in Nixa. All schools get paid out that $7,145 per pupil. Now, it costs more than that to educate a student. Your local area could cost more. I think in Nixa, it's like $10,000 or $12,000. Don't quote me on that. I think it's $12,000 to educate a student. Some school districts are more, some are less, but the state only gives us $7,145. And so the Governor Kehoe, I would just add, and lawmakers, the state, they've called for an examination of the formula. There's been people, school boards that are saying, listen, we're not getting enough. It's costing more to educate these students. And it's supposed to be a mixture of state, local, and federal money, but we need more because that cost to educating a student is more than the $7,145. So now the opponents of this tax credit include both homeschool families and public school educators. Now, obviously the public schools don't want to lose their tax dollars that they get. Now, again, I've talked about this. I'm on the school board. People get mad at me and they say, well, you're on the school board. You're supposed to be all in with only going with public education. That's not the case. And I say it based on my personal experience. Now, my kids are in public school. I got 3 kids that are in public school in Nixa. We have a great school district, and I'm on the school board to make sure that it stays great. But they're educating people. We got some blue ribbon schools, top in the state. Our sports are awesome. Our academics are awesome. Our extracurricular, like theater and band, they're awesome. Nixa's killing it. And so I would say move to Nixa, but don't bring your junk there. If you want to stay a part of a great school, move to Nixa. But it's public school, and I believe in public school. We've also done private schooling, and we did that when we were in Florida. And I'm all for all of the above. I remember when I was in St. Louis, when I pastored there, we lived out in South County. Schools were fine, the Melville School District. But the inner cities, they were not accredited. And my parishioners at our church are like, Pastor, our schools are terrible. They're unaccredited. How come your kids get to go to school in the rich white neighborhood and our kids are stuck in these failing schools? There are times where private schools, charter schools are needed. And I'm for all of the above, period. I'm for open, all of the above. And I think if you're sending your kids to private school, your tax dollars should follow. Now, here's the deal, though. This is what I believe. So should the same requirements. So, for example, New Covenant Academy, they don't have to take every kid like a state school does. They have to take the kids with the SPED kids, the special education, and so it does cost more. So I think if you want the tax dollars to follow, then the same educational requirements need to follow. But I'm not the expert on this stuff. I just know a little bit to keep us, to keep me dangerous. But we need conversations on this. I'm for all of the players to come together and let's solve this problem. Because the reality is, our public schools, we're falling behind. You look at other countries, we are falling behind. President Trump said this, we're like 39th or 40th of the schools, and that's not acceptable. We spend more money than any other country, and our kids should be tops. And so public schools are against it because they don't want to lose the funding. DESE, which is the Department of Education, Secondary Education, their budget literally from 2023 to 2024 went from like 10 billion to 15 billion. I don't know what DESE's doing. They're huge, and they control the tax dollars for schools. I want somebody to look into them. I'm being real on that one. But because they got a lot of money they're responsible for allocating. Where's it going to? So public schools, they don't want to lose that money because, controlling that. But the homeschoolers, they are not for this tax credit as well. That surprises me. And now here's why the homeschool organizations are not. And because they believe if they take the funds, then they're going to be regulated. The government's going to be up in their business, tell them what to teach, how to teach. Now, Senator Bratton, he said his office received an influx of opposition referring to homeschooling families worried about alterations to the state's homeschool protections. There's some protections. A lot of times when homeschool people are homeschooling because they want to teach their religious values, their moral principles. And so homeschool educators have opposed tax credits and other public programs in recent years, saying they are worried about government oversight. Understood. But Senator Bratton, he said the idea that it would impose restrictions on homeschooling families is a myth. That's what Senator Bratton says. Now, we shall see if this bill gains any traction and if it makes it out of committee and onto the state Senate floor. We will see. Other stuff that people are talking about. Is flying safe? My guy Frizz, you should see the look that he just threw up there. Now, Frizz, you don't like to fly. You didn't like to fly before all these crazy stuff over here of the last couple of years. I know he's like looking, he's trying to get it going. I don't know you're going to have a chance to, Frizz. He's moving. But the question is flying safe? That's what people want to know. People are asking that question all over social media. There was another airline mishap. Just like literally yesterday, an Arizona plane crash killed 2 after a mid-air collision at the Marana airport. So this collision occurred about 8:25 yesterday, local time, in Marana Regional Airport in Arizona. So 2 planes, they collided. They were both smaller, fixed-wing, small engine planes. Each plane was carrying 2 passengers, and the 2 who died were on the same aircraft. That's just terrible. A lot of different plane crashes. You're seeing these all over, and people are wanting to know, is flying safe? That's the question. Look at Frizz back there. He's going,
Well, first off, I need to get myself on here. People don't even know if I'm here or not.
They don't even know if you're here today.
Hi. What's going on, people? What's going on, people? Yeah, no, flying isn't safe, in my opinion.
Anyway. You've never flown before, have you?
It's scary to me. I just now thought of this over the past 5 seconds. I'm probably the only person that I know that is intrigued by airplanes, wants to learn about them, but are scared to fly them.
I mean, you look at that collision yesterday, the collision Wednesday following the string of several aircraft crashes. I mean, the Delta airline plane that flipped upside down while landing in Toronto, that was on Monday. Those people, Delta just came out and said today, no strings attached, we're giving you all $30,000 right now. I mean, that's crazy. You saw the video. I don't know if you've seen the video. The plane hits. It hits hard, and then it flips over. One wing breaks off. It's on its back, and it lands upside down. That's scary. You should go check out the video of that. I should have played it. And then, I shouldn't have. And then, remember.
No, you shouldn't have.
A couple weeks ago, January 31st, a fatal medical jet that crashed in Philadelphia. That plane was taken off. They'd had a kid on there from Mexico. They were going to stop here in Springfield, Missouri, and refuel. And shortly after takeoff, it bursts into flames there, and it lands in the parking lot and wounds some people there. I mean, that was right there. And that was just the day before, or the day after, the midair collision between the Army helicopter and the commercial airline in Washington, D.C. that killed 67 people all on board. So people are asking, is flying safe? Are you going to be flying right now? Look at Frizz. You weren't going to fly before, Frizz, so you don't count. I've been on planes like a couple times over since then, man, these last couple weeks.
How do you deal with it? How do you deal with the turbulence and stuff?
I've only had one time where I had major turbulence where we just dropped. I mean, dropped out of the sky. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, no. See, here's the thing with me. You can survive a car crash. You can't survive or you can't survive an airplane crash.
Yeah, no, that's true.
It's just like,
I guess I just don't. I'm not scared of it. It's like, statistically, you're safest, and I'm in God's hand. I mean, I could sleep, dude. I go up there, played, and I'm like done. I'm like, I'm crashed, and then I land. Sometimes I land. I'm like, oh, we're here already. It's crazy. So it's flying safe. That's what people are talking about. Here's another thing. What people are talking about. I don't know if you guys saw this picture. So Trump, he kind of got involved with this issue with congestion pricing in New York City. So you guys know Trump's a New Yorker. So the state of New York and I think New York City, they wanted to charge a higher fee for people that were going into Manhattan during certain times. And basically, the rich people in Manhattan, they didn't want all the traffic coming in and through their borough, and so they wanted to charge a fee to keep people out. And so they were going to charge like $9 for cars wanting to come in, and people were fighting that. So and Trump was like, "This is a bad idea," and so they fought it. So the judge revealed, nope, that New York, they can't charge higher prices on their fares at certain times to keep people out. So then Trump's team posted this photo right here. Trump and his long live the king. I don't know. Put it on the other side so we can cover up. We don't need double Trump. So yeah, long live the king. People who already didn't like Trump are having major issues with that. And I'm not for it. I think that's a bad optic. People know that they're already trying to nail Trump with he thinks he is the king and he wants to, rule. And so if you know that already, why give them, fodder? Frizz, you're shaking your head. Like, why?
Come on, bro. Come on, man. Come on.
I just don't think it's a good idea.
It was not.
I'm not down with it. Trump's not the king. Trump is our president. He's a good president. He's a good, he's putting America first. I'm all for that. His policies are right on. You can't deny the dude's policies. He's not the pastor in chief. He's not the king. He's our president. And he's my president. He's my president. You remember what that's from? Terrell Owens. That's my quarterback. That's my quarterback. I'm so random. But anyway, bad look, Trump team. I don't know why you did that, because maybe they just want to troll the people that already hate Trump. I just think it's a bad idea because I've already had 3 people send me this message. Are you for this? Do you agree with this? I'm like, no. But so then, but we know where I'm standing. I'm not defending Trump. I like what he's doing. I think people who don't like him, you need to defend your junkie position, because the dude is making America great again. He's doing good stuff. His policies are right on. If you're conservative, know your role and shut your mouth. Defend that. What's up? That's all I got. Frontline Faith with Alex Bryant. That's all we got for today, Thursday, Thunderous Thursday, February 20th. And as always, like, share, subscribe. Do us a favor and share this. Check it out. Share it to your social media. We got to get our traffic up. You can help us with that. Like this. Go to our Frontline Faith Facebook page. And if you want to know when we're going to do this, you want updates, alexbryan.org. Go to our ministry there. And we're still working out some of the different, technical kinks and different things, the platforms that we're going to be on and all that good stuff. But thank you for your faithfulness. Thank you for watching. That's all we got for this week. On behalf of myself and Frizz, we out. Word.